Cedars Sinai has decided to shut down their Thaliens program, which is 51 mental health beds, 51 psychiatric beds, which is a huge loss to the community. It also means that they're not training psychiatric nurses, they're not training doctors or staff to work with the community on mental health issues, and that's a huge hit to the community. So,
This is the question I have for Cedars. Why?
Buddy, can you guys hold up your signs over here to the camera? Ladies, gentlemen, we'd like to see your signs. Anybody else seen the sign? All right. Where would these people go if these 51 beds are gone? Where's the next closest emergency or?
I don't know. It'd be a long ways. Yeah, it'd be a long ways,
huh?
especially if you live in the community here. But even from other communities, they come here, not just from all over, and it just means one less mental health facility to help people out.
Well, as you can see, the group is gathering and it is getting larger. And this is a grassroots effort, and it's really, really a time that we could reflect on that this is happening right in front of our eyes, mental health being cut back again here in the state of California, and also here in the beautiful west side of Cedars Sinai. And this Thaliens Hospital Mental Health Center is one of the biggest and best programs that they have in the United States. For I believe for them to be cutting back 51 beds, it's an atrocity, and shame on Cedars Sinai.
My name's Eric Kretschmer, and I was a patient here. I was in the outpatient hospitalization for 2 years. Basically, it turned around my life.
Wow. Did you were here inpatient or were you outpatient?
Inpatient and outpatient.
Okay. So the closing of these 51 beds, how would that affect this facility?
It's horrible. I mean, Reagan shut down the state hospitals, saying the communities ought to be able to pick up the slack. Well, here it is on a community level, and they're ditching us.
I live with bipolar disorder. I was hospitalized in New York City for maybe 9 years. I was fortunate enough to have a facility that was available to me. And the reason I'm here today is because Cedars Sinai has made a decision to shut down both inpatient and outpatient facilities because, in my opinion, it's just not lucrative for them. There's not enough testing. There's no MRI testing. There are no CAT scans. And all insurance companies have to pay for is a bed. So they'd rather put their money towards cancer, diabetes, anything where there's more testing. So who gets left out? Psych patients. And psych patients will end up on the street. I could have ended up on the street. But instead, I'm out here on the street tonight protesting.
You know, Cedars is building a new building, $750 million. Okay? It's in construction right now. Now, that has to be paid for, right? And I know that Thaliens is losing money. But you know what? So is pediatrics. You don't see them closing the pediatrics center here at Cedars. So that is why we're protesting.
Diabetes, heart disease, every single other illness, but this esteemed hospital is not going to treat mental illness anymore as of June 2012. Why? Why, you ask? Well, insurance companies pay hospitals based upon the expensive tests they can administer. And there are expensive tests for cancer, for diabetes, other illnesses, but there are no expensive tests for panic attacks, anxiety disorder, depression, bipolar disorder, and or schizophrenia. So the hospital doesn't make as much money from patients with illnesses in their heads as compared to other illnesses. Cedars Sinai is closing 51 psych beds for us, and this will cause incredible anguish and suffering for families because their relatives will have to go out to Alhambra Hospital or out to Olive View Hospital, and it makes treatment less accessible in Los Angeles nearby. And the level of this may increase homelessness because treatment is not accessible. And it could also have more arrests and more people be sent to our jails because they didn't get to medication in time and they committed some minor criminal action and therefore were arrested. It is a tragedy, it is a travesty on those who have no voice. Those with brain illnesses have no voice, and the treatment for those with brain illnesses is getting less and less and less in America. People with mental illness are released from hospitals after the 72-hour hold. You don't see that happening to Alzheimer's patients. You don't see them walking homeless in the streets. You don't see people who have cardiac problems walking the streets before they get 2 or 3 month period to heal. It takes time to heal from a psychotic illness. I have a dream that we'll have hospitals that allow people to stay until they're healed. I have a dream that we'll have hospitals that include families. Families are excluded from knowing if their relatives in the hospital, from knowing what's going on in treatment. You don't have cancer patients where the family is excluded completely from knowing about the treatment for their ill relative. We know supportive, educated families help improve the prognosis for people with brain illnesses. Yes, I have a dream. I have a dream that NAMI becomes a civil rights movement for those of us who can't speak for ourselves, those of us who have brain illnesses in our families, and that we fight stigma and change the way in America those with mental illnesses are treated. Let's hear it for changing.
Yeah! Woo!
So my name is Ellen Sachs, as Sharon said, and I have a brain illness. My diagnosis is chronic schizophrenia, and I was diagnosed back in the late 70s. I was also given a very poor and a grave prognosis. That is, I was expected to be unable to live independently, let alone to work. That hasn't turned out to be my life. I'm a chaired professor at USC Law School with joint appointments in psychology and psychiatry. I'm an adjunct professor of psychiatry at UCSD Medical School, and I'm on the faculty of the New Center for Psychoanalysis. I'm also happily married for the last 10 years to a wonderful husband and have great friends and family. How did that happen? Mine is not the story of a lone woman who overcame odds through sheer force of will. It's the story of someone into whom enormous treatment resources were invested. 4 and 5 day a week psychoanalytic psychotherapy for many decades and continuing. Excellent psychopharmacology once I accepted the need for medication. And I've also had the benefit of wonderful friends and family and a supportive and accommodating workplace at USC Law School. It's very clear to me that we need to invest resources into the care of people with brain disorders in order for them to thrive. Because if we do provide care, I'm convinced that many, if not most people, can thrive. Cedars until now has been an important place for those with brain disorders. It's now closing both its inpatient and its outpatient division. Without intensive outpatient care, I'm sure I would have lived out my grave prognosis. We need to provide people with the resources to do well, because if we do, they will. Part of a treatment system designed for people with brain disorders is hospitalization. I have to say that I myself found the force involved in hospitalization quite aversive, and I've tried very hard to stay out of hospital since my last extended stay back in 82, 83. I'm very proud that I've been out that long. But I do recognize that hospitals are necessary and wanted for some people at some times. A person may be unable to take care of himself. He may be posing a threat to other people or himself, or she may just be suffering immensely, and hospital care is the best and safest and quickest way to get better. Some people need an asylum.
Many psychiatrists who are employed by Cedars wanted to join our vigil tonight and express their outrage and deep concern for the patients who will now be left without treatment. But they were given to understand that their jobs would be in jeopardy if they talked to any outsiders about what has been going on inside these walls. I have never been an employee at Cedars, so I do not risk losing my job. However, I do risk alienating and angering whomever has been behind these decisions. Nonetheless, it is more important to publicly air the devastation that will be the result of this closure, in the hopes that it is not still too late to recognize the folly of these plans and put a stop to them. Thaliens patients will decompensate without this psychological support and without their medication. Some will become psychotic and at risk of becoming suicidal or homicidal. As a psychiatric expert witness, I have interviewed countless perpetrators of violent crimes who could have been stopped if they had been provided with psychiatric treatment. I'm working on a case right now of a young man who killed his bride because he did not have access to a competent psychiatrist. Many former Thaliens patients will lose their families, their jobs, their homes, and their dignity.
There are no psychiatric hospitals, no state-run hospitals in California. We have forensic hospitals for people who are sent there because they have committed some kind of crime. Now, and we have 20% of people in prisons, state prisons, federal prisons, and county jails who are mentally ill. 20% of the prisoners are mentally ill. Now, you talk about stigma. Why shouldn't the population have stigma toward the mentally ill if they're all in jail? So many of them are in jails, prisons, and locked facilities, euphemistically called institutions for the mentally disabled.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
Everybody.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Yeah, it's time for us to use our voices and make some noise because this is an important issue and people need to recognize that this is something that people care about and it's a resource that's badly needed in this community and in many communities like ours.
On behalf of my family and NAMI family, we are all one body. We ask you to please write your congressmen, write your state senators, write your local politicians, your city council persons, your mayors. Let them know, specifically the LA County supervisors, that we need to save mental health and we need the funding to keep these beds open for our family members and for our friends and for our community. So on behalf of NAMI, National Alliance for Mental Illness, and all the great organizations here with the DMH, Department of Mental Health, and the rest of the county providers, we ask you to reconsider Cedars, reconsider your decisions tonight, and do the will of the people. You heard them tonight, sing it out loud. You heard them walking tonight, and now we ask you to please take heed and reopen these beds and bring back our inpatient, outpatient programs. Thank you very much. God bless you, God bless NAMI, and God bless America.